but having that interaction with people, more than just hearing a speaker give a wonderful talk, it's talking to the day-to-day marketers and hearing their challenges. And hey, I did this to fix it. And hey, have you tried this other thing? That interaction of we are not alone and there's other people doing cool stuff, and having a moment to detach yourself from your day-to-day and just think about how can I incorporate this new learning into my day-to-day. It's always such an energizing moment in my life. So that 100% recommend. Go find a marketing club nearby, check online for courses, take a moment to really take a step back and look from another perspective, because there's a lot of great people doing great job out there or great work out there that you can really leverage.
Welcome to PPC Town Hall. My name is Navah Hopkins, and I am elated to be here with three of my absolute favorites in the industry. One of the things that keeps PPC so interesting, or pay-per-click marketing so interesting, is the diverse and width and breadth of experiences that this industry supports, whether it's B2B, B2C, whether we're talking creative, whether we're talking data analysis. There is a ton to be had. Now, I have with me Motoko Hunt, Andrea Cruz, and Sarah Stemen, and I cannot wait to get in. So let's get to it. Hey guys, welcome.
Hi.
So before we get to the questions, I'd love for us to go around and kind of say a quick who you are and what your marketing superpower is, because at the end of this episode, we're going to be revealing who our Optmyzr Sheroes are. So we'd love to get your marketing superpowers. Motoko, why don't we start with you?
Well, my name is Motoko Hunt. I'm from a company called AJPR, which I started back in the 98. Over the years, I've been working, my company does both PPC and SEO side also. And then I've been, looking at how this industry changed over the years. So, and how the women is thriving in this industry, especially. I'm really looking forward to discuss that, with three of you, that special women in the industry today.
And what about you, Sarah? What's your marketing superpower?
Well, I would definitely say my marketing superpower is the fact that I will Google anything and everything. So that's sort of right. Like I just go to Google, and believe it or not, before Google, I was a Yahoo person, but search marketing kind of transitioned me. So it's even funnier. But yeah, I think that's like, I feel like I can really put myself in the position of a searcher because, man, Google probably has everything on me. So it's a great question.
And you, Andrea, what's your marketing superpower?
Well, first, thank you for having me. And what an honor to be among this beautiful, smart, overachieving group of women. You are all an inspiration. I don't know if I have a marketing superpower other than I am so passionate for what we do. It changes all the time. So if you like change, I feel this is the right industry to be in, where you actually have to go out of the rules, even though they're very standard rules to follow. And I love that variation in my life.
100%. And Motoko, I'm going to come back to you because you gave us your history, but not your superpower. You have a ton of superpowers. So what is your marketing superpower?
Well, I think my special area or niche is probably the understanding the global marketing in general. That not in and then some people are really super at the local search. I'm more on the global side, and especially in the Asian market.
So what's actually really interesting, and this wasn't, I have a list of questions that I was asked to put to you all, but this is one that kind of came up as Sarah was talking, that we moved away from Yahoo to Google, and now we're kind of thinking about moving back to Bing. And I'm really curious, Motoko, maybe you want to chime in first, and then the rest of you ladies can chime in as well. How is search engine adoption shifting throughout our careers? Are you seeing more of that true pluralistic international take with all search engines getting adoption? Are we still seeing certain concentrations? Would love your takes.
Yeah, it's really different depending on the industry you are in. In general, Google is definitely strong, or no matter where you go. But in a certain market or certain countries, like especially in Asia, the local search engines, they understand how the local customers' behaviors, and because of that, they are stronger in a way than the Google. But Google is definitely working to increase the market share there, and also Bing. Bing has been doing really good job growing their market share in Asia. And also, there are other, local, smaller search engines, or smaller platform that people can advertise in the local market. So it's not just a Google, and which makes it really interesting and give us the additional ways or additional place to reach the audience. So I think it's really good for clients, the advertisers, to have the more platforms than one.
Andrea, with your B2B take, do you see it's a similar? Google's the gorilla in the room, and everyone else is kind of scrambling for market share, or do you find that in the B2B world, those smaller engines actually have a little bit more opportunity?
Well, that's such an interesting thing, because this year is the year of efficiency. This is the year where we all, or not all, but in most cases, we have the same budgets as last year. And we are asked to be more efficient, even though we know everybody's being asked the same thing. So I actually had this conversation with a client about 2 to 3 weeks ago, which is we are being more efficient in Europe with Microsoft ads than with Google ads. And the client was so surprised. It was like, I cannot believe it. We must be fully reaching the market. It was like, no, your impression share has still opportunity to grow. And we can still push the fall whilst reducing our spend on Google, and let's shift things around. And we see this not only happening on the search engine market, but we also see it on some paid social platforms as well, which is we're finding pockets of efficiency that didn't exist 5 years ago. So very excited to always find those opportunities. And like Motoko said, to look into the markets, because it might change. What we see in North America might not be the same metrics we are seeing in Europe or Asia Pacific, and so on and so forth.
And Sarah, how about you? And what are you seeing?
So no, I think that's super interesting. So I predominantly right now have e-commerce clients. And so I feel like a lot of it is also driven by how we as people sort of behave too. So when you think about the age that we're in now, we're in information overload. We're also seeking how-tos, but maybe we don't have the time to necessarily read like a full blog post. So there is more movement towards video searching, and then having your product positioned as that solution, right? So YouTube, I think more and more, it's something that we are seeing success with. But even as we think about, and I hate to bring up like TikTok and some of the things that, I'm always hesitant to go, right out of the gate with things like that. But people are navigating towards those because they're quick, they're easy, they get the information you want in that short time frame, and it's digestible. So, I was reflecting when you said Yahoo, and I'm like, originally I liked Yahoo because I like to look at all the gossip and news on the front page. And now to me, like, I'm like, oh, that's like a little bit too much. Like I've already found that in other channels in my life and been bombarded with that. So
it's really interesting hearing all of your perspectives, because I'm very much aligned. But what's also interesting is seeing how people are kind of rediscovering these networks that were always great. They just didn't necessarily understand or remember that they had these features. Like I'm seeing all these posts about Microsoft. Like, did you know that Microsoft did this? Microsoft's doing this. I'm like, yes, they've been doing it for a while now. And shameless plug that Optmyzr does support Google and Microsoft and Yahoo Japan and Amazon. Like there's a value in honoring that every market is going to need different channels, and only focusing on Google and only focusing on Google in English is putting you at a real disadvantage. And I actually would like to use that as another shifting point. We all come from different perspectives, and we all come from different backgrounds. There's kind of no universal entry point into paid search or into marketing. What would you say your origin story looks like? Was it one of I'm changing careers? Was it one of this is really interesting to me, so I just want to go dive in? Would love to hear a little bit about the mentors, the learnings that went along the way in each of your origin stories. Whoever wants to go first can go first.
I can start.
Go ahead.
Okay. Go ahead.
I can start because I found the way I started on PPC was I don't think it was unique, but I thought it was such an interesting shift because I used to work in organization and methods. Mm-hmm. I have a degree in business administration. So my job, one of my first jobs was to figure out how to optimize a marketing team. And it was a traditional and digital marketing team. So I was able to look at both how do we do print, how do we do TV, how do we do social media, and so on and so forth. Then I actually came to the United States to do my master's degree, and I found an internship to help optimize the sales process of a marketing agency. And then when my internship was over, they told me, well, do you want to stay with us and do this digital marketing full-on position? And I was like, sure. So it was a lot of something I had already had a taste of, and I was just fully really blowing it out and fell in love with it, and been doing it for more than 10 years now. So that's nice. My story.
Sarah, what about yours?
So I started on the client side, and my background is in management information systems. So similar, but I do have that business background, and then also information systems auditing and control, which is more of an accounting degree. And I graduated around the time that the big accounting firms were kind of pulling back. And so I took a job as a HTML programmer. So I was doing that. And then a bunch of talented recruiters kept saying, like, you should move into marketing analytics. And that I was young, it required me moving. No way, I'm not going to do that. And then like 4 or 5 years later, another recruiter was like, looking at your resume, this is the perfect job for you. And then when I came on board, it was what I said. I love to Google. And then I think just being such an information seeker, like I like a treasure hunt. So getting into the accounts and seeing like what exactly is really going on here with these keywords, it just, I can lose myself in it. So, it slowly evolved, and like I'm sure everybody here, like since we kind of grew up with the industry, I've worked in social, I've worked in a lot of SEO, it just happened to be the PPC path, fell in that direction.
And what about you, Motoko?
Well, where do I start? So when I was working on a traditional marketing company agency, these things called internet started. Right? And then the companies, up until then, we were typing everything and fax everything. And the internet came, and the company said, we're going to use the email. And then we're going to use the website. And then I started looking into that, and I saw a huge potential for the company. And then I wrote down the business case and then suggested to the company, and then none of the management were interested. So I was frustrated. And then, so that was one of the reasons I, changed my career path. Another thing was around that time, my husband got transferred, and my husband was in the Marine Corps, and which means every 2-3 years we were moving. Means every 2-3 years I had to quit the job and I have to find a new job because no one could work remotely back then, right? So I was frustrated that too. So I decided, well, I'm gonna leave this company anyway, so I'm gonna start my own thing. So that's how I decided to start my own company. And then at that time, still in the 90s, late 90s, so there was no class available about search or PPC or SEO or anything. So people back then was pretty much everybody was self-taught, trying to do things and then testing, fail and some succeed, and that's how we learned. Networking was a huge part of that learning process too. So, that's how I started.
It's funny, the having to transfer every couple of years. It's the best story of how you take a lemon and you make lemonade. Like, that's the best story, not just of entering the marketing industry, but entering entrepreneurship I've ever heard. That's fantastic. My story is kind of silly. I wanted to be an English teacher, but then I realized that I would be both poor and ineffective. So I ended up transferring to Emerson after having a conversation with a family member that told me I was being stupid not to pursue marketing. So it's kind of that similar story to you, Sarah, of why are you not pursuing this? Like, you're denying a core part of your nature to not be in marketing. But what's also kind of interesting is that digital marketing is very much like a game, and I'm an avid gamer. And so looking at it from the stories of the people and the psychology, and then also kind of the worker placement game of managing accounts is just really fun. So yeah, it's just interesting to kind of hear that even though we all had different stories, there's kind of that overarching, we like chasing challenges and we like being fulfilled by a constantly innovating industry. That leads me to the next question about motivation. How do we stay motivated? I know I'll share first. I was actually struggling really hard to stay motivated for about 2 years. It did go along with the pandemic, but it seems like we in PPC were in this rut of lack of innovation for a little bit. And then all of a sudden, all the innovation happened. I'm suddenly really engaged and interested again. But one of the things that kind of kept me engaged was actually helping people and seeing that impact. So really curious for you guys, how did you stay motivated? We'll start with you, Sarah.
So I would say for me, my motivation has waned and ebbed with my children. So right now my children are old enough that they're pretty self-sustainable, but they're hard to control because I have a teenager and they're just kind of crazy. So my motivation right now is work is something I feel I can control. And so just in general, it's made me become just a much higher quality producer, because it's my chance that what I do directly helps my clients, my coworkers, my company. And so it's kind of nice to be able to wrangle something in my life when, my kids are just all over the place.
100%. I cannot overstate how much I empathize and sympathize with that statement of running towards control. What about you, Motoko?
Well, the challenge part of it is always, keep me on the toe and always learning. I like that part of this industry. Like you said, Navah, that for a while, it seems like doing the same thing over and over on a daily basis, and it can get tired. But then again, there's a lot of things to even the campaigns optimize or make it more efficient. There's a lot of things you can do all the time, which is great. Working with a great clients really makes me happy, and providing the results and then them being happy with the results. And then some of the clients, because of that results, get promoted within their company. that really, that brings me a joy too. So those are the things, that keep me going. Yeah.
And you, Andrea, how do you stay motivated? And I have a suspicion it has a little bit to do with your puppy, but
well, we can talk about Rocca if you guys want to talk about puppies, but I actually wanted to talk about what I have found that always brings me back to, okay, let's change the world type of feeling is conferences and actually having interaction with people, particularly in person. I am all down for working from home. I work from home. I would not change it for anything in the world. But having that interaction with people, more than just hearing a speaker give a wonderful talk, it's talking to the day-to-day marketers and hearing their challenges. And hey, I did this to fix it. And hey, have you tried this other thing? That interaction of we are not alone and there's other people doing cool stuff, and having a moment to detach yourself from your day-to-day and just think about how can I incorporate this new learning into my day-to-day? It's always such an energizing moment in my life. So that 100% recommend. Go find a marketing club nearby, check online for courses, take a moment to really take a step back and look from another perspective, because there's a lot of great people doing great job out there or great work out there that you can really leverage.
1,000% agree. And there's also a shameless plug for the Pacers Association, which we all are members of and board members of. It is such a powerful, powerful thing to find your people and just connect with them. And one of the things that's actually really a big reason why I've stayed in marketing, even though I know I've found it sometimes tempting to kind of change or go back or think about other things, is that ability to connect with fellow clever people and have a really meaningful impact in people's lives. Like Motoko, to your point of you saw someone get promoted off of the work that you got to do with them. Like that's so huge. Another question I have, and this one, there's a number of ways I guess we can take it. The particular question that I was asked to ask is, what role do we think honesty plays in marketing? But I open it up that if we would like to also address, given that this is the privacy first era, and how much kind of respecting consumer consent plays into it, not just how much does honesty play into it, but how much does overall doing well by doing good and kind of ethical marketing, how much does that play into not just the strategies that you employ, but kind of how your day-to-day works? Anyone can go for it.
I mean, I can go for this one because I've had a couple examples. So I guess the direction that I'll take with that is just our integrity as, people who do PPC is constantly something we need to keep our eye on. I think a lot of people don't understand our job. And when working with clients, I have seen in the past data be spun in a way that's not optimal and in the best interest of the client. And I think we always need to make sure that we are operating in the best interest of our client and the campaigns that we support. And what I mean by that is, shifting metrics. So sometimes focusing on the wrong metrics, and then letting that slide.
You mind spelling out which metrics?
Yes. Yeah. So, let's like optimize your campaign for clicks, for example.
Yeah.
Now, in some cases, that's the direction you may have to go, but not necessarily something that I would recommend for the majority of clients. And then I would also say just taking that ownership as a person behind this is why that metric and why that's happening. And maybe that is something that I tested. Maybe I left this setting on and, the campaign was not targeting the location that you were after, and it was targeting the entire United States. That is an honest mistake. And not only is it an honest mistake, but when we're working in multiple different client accounts, those mistakes can happen. How do you then handle that mistake with your client and take the honest approach, even if it's very, very uncomfortable?
And typically clients will be understanding if you're honest and upfront about it, and you say, we own that this was a mistake and we caught it and we're going to fix it. It's much worse if you try to hide it and then it's not great.
Yeah.
Motoko, any thoughts there? And I'm particularly curious on your take also, because you have the international perspective where it's not just a question of ethics, it's a question of breaking the law on some of these things.
Yeah, each country has different regulations. So we need to be on top of that. And then similar to the data, disclosure with the clients, we explain everything. Why we set it up, the campaign this way, or why we are approaching messaging this way, why we're allocating the budget this way, or why we, reporting, certain data this way. We make sure that every clients are on board for every little points of that. To make sure that, and then, they have the access to the accounts as well. So, tell my staff that make sure, you keep eye on everything and everything is up to date, because clients, can question us every day at any point, which is really, keep them in line and then make sure that they are paying attention as, best as they could too. So that, regulation-wise and then the campaign-wise, we discuss every little points with the clients and then make sure they understand and fully on board.
And you made a really important point about the clients can tell. I was having a reporting call with someone, whether they were reporting in their data, and it was really confounding that they were just reporting the metrics, not why they did what they did, or what the impact of those metrics mean. And I don't think enough folks recognize how much more intelligent and savvy our customers are. They don't need us to just tell them the data that's going to be in a dashboard. They need that more substantial information. And the ethical, honest marketer is going to not just be able to provide the strategy, they'll be able to articulate it and help bring their clients along on that journey. Andrea, what about you? What are your takes on honest and ethical marketing?
I think the other thing is there's so many marketers out there that love absolute statements.
Yes. Oh my God.
Did I touch a bottom?
We're all Sith.
Did I touch a bottom? Because nothing in life ever, marketing included, can apply to everybody. So we need to learn and show not only our client, but also all our internal teams. Let's do not have absolute statements. There's an explanation for everything, and things might change because we have a very what's the word I'm looking for? We have a very dynamic world, so that needs to be addressed. Everything should be handled on a case-by-case basis. Yes, we see trends, but we should call them trends. We should not call them everybody should run on PMAX or everybody should stop Microsoft advertising, because it doesn't work that way.
And one final note on this, and then we'll move on to the next piece. It is so much easier to get clients on board and to get fellow marketers on board with whatever strategy you want to put forward if you position things as paths and the potential pros and cons that can happen with those paths. The moment you make an absolute statement, like Andrea said, as much as I am a Sith at heart, we are casting ourselves as the stereotypical bad guys, because we're either going to be right, but we're only right some of the time, we're wrong, and then we made a wrong statement, and we're polarizing in how things are going. So definitely 100% agree. Put forth paths, not absolutes. So this is a question that we can spend as much or as little time on it as you all like. I find it really interesting that we're all extremely accomplished, well-established, amazing perspectives in marketing. We all have very different family lives. We all have very different takes on that balance of career and family. And I'm really interested to hear your guys' takes on how you choose where to invest your emotional and mental and spiritual energy. Because I'll just share before I open it up to you guys to answer. It sometimes is really stressful for me, feeling like I'm not giving enough to my family. And even though my family is just my husband and my dogs, there are other times where I feel like I'm not giving enough to my career. And so I would really love all of your takes on that. And Andrea, I don't know if you want to start first, since it's been a bit since you started first.
Sure. It's a challenge. And I think as women, we might feel it more than our counterparts, because we do a lot. I try to balance it out, but I have a husband that is also very much into working late nights and weekends. So I feel we both understand each other. But it's all about finding some time to actually detach. I am the person that has focus mode on my phone. So after 6 p.m., I will not get notifications. I will 100% look at my phone. I am guilty of it. But if I don't have the constant pinging, it actually allows me to, okay, I'm going to read a book. I'm going to go outside. It's my second to forget about it for a little bit and be able to focus on other things that are important to me.
Motoko, do you want to go next?
This has always been a challenge for me, especially because my husband's in the search industry too. So, the lunch conversation and then dinner conversation, weekend conversation, everything could lead into, before we know it, we're talking about search all day long. And then this is not good for us. So we are, and especially now that, kids been gone, we are empty nesters. And so, when we talk about something, it's, likely toward that, go toward that search. But we are making a conscious decision and to not talk about it on the off time of, finding a couple hours and then cut off from the internet, away from this internet connections and go, like Andrea said, go walk outside or, something like that. And then on the weekends, try not to do the work at all. And with me, working with the clients in Asia, I tend to do a lot of the calls late at night too because of the time difference. So in that case, he will, prepare the dinner for us, or we take turns so that it's not just on the one person. But I was thinking the other day, people tend to ask women, if the women can do all or not, but they never ask that for men. They never expect the men to do all, and then so why do we have to do all? Right? We should share the responsibilities, the workload, and then as a family, we should look into the way to find the balance within the family, so that everybody do the work and everybody's happy. I think those are the key.
I cannot agree with that more. One thing I'll share, and then Sarah, I'll pass it over to you. I think one of the best things that happened for me in my career, and for my marriage with my husband, is kind of forcing the issue of equality. Because for a very long time, I was the breadwinner for my house, and I never, it was kind of a thing of pride, but it was also a I feel like I'm doing all of it. And that acceptance and being willing to take a step back and just be okay. We're both bringing together the work, we're both sharing, it made everything easier. So 100%, that is such a good actionable takeaway for all of you listening to Motoko. Be okay that we don't have to do everything. We might want to, but that's such a great takeaway. And I will say, I appreciate that some of your extracurricular activities are metal concerts. I live vicariously through all the shows you go see. So, Sarah, what about you? What are your takes on family and or balance and all that?
No, this is a great question because, like I've said, I have 3 kids and also a husband that, he's an executive at a very large Fortune 500 company. So it's a lot. And I would say just accepting the fact that things do change, and a lot of times they change during the year. So not only do I have 3 kids, but I have one in competitive gymnastics, competitive dance, and then another that plays like football, wrestling, track. So they literally, at each season, right, what the sports changes and then what the weather. So like for a long time, my husband was leaving 3 days a week at 3:00 to take my daughter to gymnastics. And then what he did is he spent those hours, because he's at the gym from about 3:00 till 7:30. He would spend that time doing training and personal development. So he was able to get his a lot of his IT security, which, I mean, pretty extensive trainings taken care of, and in Amazon trainings and things like that. And then when the weather gets warm, he can sit in the front and work. But now I'm taking a lot of those gymnastics shifts, and I actually will work also in the summer. But then when it's cold, I'll actually sit in the bleachers and use that time to socialize with the other moms. And so I block my calendar out from 3 p.m. on, and it's understood. Now that does mean logging in early, making different sacrifices, but no matter what happens, you get your work done. And then you also choose a company that supports these types of flexible arrangements.
I cannot overstate how much both that and Andrea, you made the point also about blocking off your calendar and protecting your time and having those unmovable hours. I mean, we talk about doing that in our workday for projects and for getting things done. We need to do it for ourselves too. So really actionable takeaways, all three of you, amazing. One last thing I'll share, and then we'll move on to the next question. I think one of the things that was the kindest thing I did for myself is taking away the pressure of I have to have a family by this time, and allowing myself to give into my career and letting the family happen when it happens. There was this idea I had in my head of I have to have it done by this time so that I can enjoy my kids during this time, and then I'll be an empty nester at this time. Like it's not useful. Much better is to just allow yourself to be human, and let what happens happen. So the next question I have is actually a question I ask almost everybody when I meet them for the first time. So this is a little bit of a back step for me because I've known all of you for many years and I love you all. What's your favorite innovation, we'll say, of the past year, and why? Whoever wants to go first.
I mean, I can because I have one right off the top. I mean,
yeah, let's go, Sarah.
Absolutely cliche, but I love ChatGPT. I use it repeatedly, and it's because, so my biggest issue is how do I say something concisely, especially being a very, very detailed person, or how do I rephrase something so that it sounds like it's actually communicating what I mean. And I use it, I literally pop the tab open and will have sentences rephrased for me all the time. And I credit it to just better communication, and then not bothering my husband to be like, how should I say this?
It's not bothering.
Rude.
I'm gonna do the thing where when people say they're sorry and they should say thank you for appreciating or bothering, it's not. You're not bothering. I'm sure he's delighted and elated to help you. But yeah, I totally agree with ChatGPT. And I have a feeling all of us will say ChatGPT to a certain extent. But Andrea, how about you?
I think I'm going to cheat. This is technically not an innovation, but it's a shift. I have dedicated most of my career to B2B marketing, so business to business. And something that is unique about this year, and a lot of people hear this stat and they think it's fake, but it's true. For the very first year, 2023, it's the year that millennials and Gen Zs are the dominant group in buying committees. So this is people, that like me, I remember when the internet was born. I was there, it existed, and we did our homework at school with internet because it was there. And my mom was trying to show me with the books she bought that were super expensive, and we didn't need them. So how are we adjusting our marketing strategies for this new group that it's taking over? They might not be the ones that are going to sign the paperwork, but they are 100% the big influencers in their group. So that's my take. It's not necessarily an innovation that happened in the last year, but it's something that we for sure need to be thinking about.
And what about you, Motoko?
Yeah, mine's not necessarily happening in the last year either, but being able to work remotely, widely available, I think it's really helpful, especially for women. My staff, most of my staff are women married with kids, right? And then so that I try to give them freedom of setting up their own schedule as long as they do their work within a certain period of time. I don't care what time of the day they work and where they work, so that give them a freedom and a flexibility to do the work and then quality of work. When you give them a little bit of freedom like that, they appreciate that, and they return the quality work. So ease of making it possible to work remotely and providing while providing a quality of work. I think that's really been helpful for many people, I think, especially in this industry.
So this is where I'm going to give a cop out and say, I agree with all of you. All of those were great, are great innovations. And mine is not really, again, within the last year, because I feel like we all would default to ChatGPT if it was just to be within the last year. Mine is actually how much mental health has been kind of celebrated as a key integral part of company culture, and that we are building in processes and we are baking that in to our marketing efforts and thinking about that. So as much as the privacy first web can sometimes be frustrating as a marketer, I actually really love how much it forces us to see people as people and not kind of stereotyping demographics. I really appreciate how much there's a thought process behind that work-life balance and how we target, how we communicate, but also how we set up our tasks. And that idea of working hard instead of working smart, or working smart instead of working hard. That's not even the conversation anymore. It's just, how can we be as efficient as possible in all things, in our life, in our happiness, in all of it. So that's just something that I find really, really useful. And one of the things that's really empowering is seeing how many people are getting on board with kind of being kind to themselves. There was a period, I think, where we were all being very, very hard on ourselves and we were demanding a lot. And then we seem like we're in a period of kindness, which is good. So one thing I'm actually really curious about, we've talked quite a bit about our lives, about kind of search. I'm curious where you see this next era of marketing, whether marketing as a woman, marketing in general, where you see that heading. Do you see it being one of visual first? Do you see it being one of, we're not going to even worry about marketing as a woman because we're going to be done with stereotypes and demographics. It's not going to matter. Would love everyone's takes. And we will start with Andrea.
I think it's all going to be about experience.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody just wants to have a positive experience. We talk about a period of kindness. We are used to this instant gratification. We want everything to be done today because we are all busy. So what about the experience? And if the person wants to consume video, then video, it's what they should get. If they want to go in depth and they are showing the intent that they want to go in depth and have a very detailed guide, step-by-step guide, all the information is out there for us to make that decision. So I can only imagine that this is going to be enhanced as we move forward.
And what about you, Sarah?
So I would say it's probably a race at this point to who can come to the market and figure out how to teach what we do in the most optimal way. I think that's one of the single biggest challenges in our industry right now is, when somebody new comes and says, I want to learn PPC, where to start. It used to be really simple. Not simple, but we had set paths where we could, start out really being good at spreadsheets, because you're going to have to build a lot of bulk sheets, and it's just not there. It's more of a understanding that history and why things came to where they are, and it's still very, very hard to teach. So I think that I see in the future is there's going to be some company, maybe Optmyzr, you guys are thought leaders, that really just come to the table with a great system.
And what about you, Motoko?
I think as far as the marketing goes, advertising goes, that it's going to be more and more diversified. The platform will be multiplied in the future. Search is, I think, it's going to be an important part of that advertising or marketing for years to come. But as the generation shifts and their interest shifts and where people spend more time will change over the years, and we need to be there wherever people go, so that we need to be able to identify what else we should be marketing or targeting, and then also the education, to the point, Sarah's point, that the education about those new platforms or new marketplaces will be important too.
It's interesting to me that all four of us have an affinity for teaching, and we're all kind of cued into the fact that this is going to be the era of teaching your customers, teaching new marketers, like teaching to bring people on board. Could not agree with that more. The only thing I'll add, and then we'll transition to another topic. I really do believe this is the era of search going to the side, and where you'll capture people is more in those top of funnel moments. And to Andrea's point, experiences are 100% part of that. But it's also about just understanding you want to be that seed of desire. You don't want to be them harvesting the crop when they already know what they want. One thing I found actually really interesting, this is just a story. One of my favorite video games and books of all time is Witcher. Except I didn't actually play the Witcher games until I heard the Miracle of Sound song of Wake the White Wolf. And that song was so motivational and so inspiring and so special that I went out and got a copy of The Witcher and played both 2 and 3. And it's understanding those moments where you can create the desire, and understanding that desire manifests itself in different ways for different people. People have different styles of learning. People have different styles of wanting to consume information. So just being mindful of that. And I think that's actually why we're seeing so much of a shift towards cross-network channels like PMATs, because the average marketer today doesn't necessarily, definitely chime in if you disagree, but the average, or agree, the average marketer doesn't invest as much time in non-search. They typically will default to search because that's what we were habitually taught to focus on. And it's really hard to break that habit. Actually, would love you guys to chime in on that. How do you break the habit of going to search first?
I'm going to say, I think the people that default to searches because they are still on that last click attribution model, and it looks like search is the only channel doing anything other than direct and so on. So the way we break that conversation is by showcasing people through research and tools where their demographic is actually present at. Because we've talked about this today a lot, which is people are not only on search anymore. We know that they are on all these platforms. So which ones are the ones they are actually in, but they also have an intent to pursue an action when they are present in there. So it's a balancing act between how do I showcase my information in a variety of networks without slicing my budget way too thin.
And you, Motoko?
Yeah, it's really important, like I said earlier, that to be everywhere and understand that where your target audiences are. It's just a challenge. It's, right now, even when you're trying to, step outside of the search marketing, it's, difficult to first learning those platforms immediately, quick enough to offer to the clients in our case. And also that it's not easy to maintain multiple platforms at once, and unless we completely rebuild the market plans for the clients, right? So it's gonna be a learning curve and adaptation on both the agency side and also that brand side. But I think it's going to be one of the things that we should be definitely looking into that in the next couple of years, definitely.
And Sarah, any thoughts on that, of breaking the habit of search?
Yeah, and I would say it goes back to it's sort of an old statement we've heard, is this is a art and a science, right? And so we have to fall back on that art piece of this when it comes to what we're all talking about is just moving up that funnel and just continuing to ask that question. Is that product or that solution didn't just end up in someone's head. There was some conscious or unconscious interaction at some point that brought your brand to the forefront of their mind, and I think that that's always important, is to remember the artistic side of our job. And I think it's so easy, especially like we've said earlier in the conversation, is when we are at a time where budgets are flat, we're being called to be more efficient, that temptation is really there to sit at the bottom of the funnel and not invest in upper funnel. But I find that when I have these conversations, like just like this, with my client, and I say, I know what we want to do, but I also know what's right as marketers, you would be really surprised how many clients are more aggressive than actually you would think. They would say, yes, we should be there because I know what's best for my long-term success with my company.
So I want to get all of your takes on this, and then we'll finish off with kind of that major takeaway that you want to share with the audience. We as women, the data is clear, often get paid less than our male counterparts. And I would say that all four of us are power women. Like we've owned our authority voices. We do what we need to do to advocate for our careers. I'd love to start with you, Motoko, and then we'll go around. What's one bit of advice or one action item you can give to women or other marginalized groups that need to advocate for themselves for that reasonable salary, for that good career?
Yeah, I think a lot of the time it's kind of on our side too, right? The women feels that, this is enough for me, or I should be grateful that I have these opportunities, and then don't even think about asking for more. But I think, we should be have the more confident and then believe in ourselves. And then we know our worth for the clients or for the company. And then, it's nothing wrong with to be paid for what you do, the service you provide. If you realize that your counterparts, the men or anybody else doing a similar job is getting paid more, you should speak up, definitely. And then, but instead of just going to saying that I think I should get paid more, just because. I think it will be a better approach if you prepare yourself. These are things I'm doing, and then these are things that this person is doing. And then this is the results I brought, and then these are the business I won for the company, or profit that I brought in for the company, or made efficient so we saved this much money. Put it in numbers so that the company can use, those are the data a company can actually use to justify to increase your salary or the benefits, right? So I think everybody can do that, and then prepare themselves do a little bit of homework like that, and then again, be confident, and then don't be afraid to ask for what you worth for it.
And you, Andrea, any thoughts on that?
Well, statistically speaking, women are paid less than men. Latin American women are even paid even less.
Yes.
So that's a stat that it's very close to my heart as a Venezuelan woman. What I would have told my younger self is, Andrea, you get all this good feedback from clients. You are doing this great job. Just write it down, because then the moment you want to have the conversation, you are scrambling to try to remember something good that happened. So just write it down so you can have that conversation Motoko was talking about in an easier, more organized way. Here's how it has transitioned. Here's how it started with something small, and here's the end result. This is the time it took me. I was consistent throughout that time. But 100% be open to have a conversation about, and it's not all about money either, but to really think about, what do you want to get? Do you want more flexibility? Do you want more benefits? Do you really just want more salary because your role and responsibilities have evolved into something that's more complex? So just go for it, but 100% don't take it for granted. Everything you are doing, it's worth something. Nobody's giving you something for free just because.
And Sarah, I want to take us home on that.
Yeah, no, I would agree with everyone's statements there. And then just not being afraid to have a point of view, I think, is really important. So, I see often, and it might be sort of the natural tendency as women to want to keep everybody in the room happy. Just say what you think and then own it. And you don't always have to back it up, even though you do. So like, I'll find sometimes like somebody who's more junior will come and say, well, I asked, or I Googled, and this is like, you don't have to say that, just this is my point of view. And then if they dig in and ask for your references and your resources, you're happy to provide those. But that's where you stand on the situation. And I think consistently having a perspective is going to continue to build you up as that expert. And then I am a true believer that the rewards do come. Like, I feel like I've been proof of that. Just slow and steady wins the race, and continuing to just do the right thing for yourself and those around you.
I cannot agree with you three more. The only thing I'll add, and I mentioned this actually the last time we did this episode, but it's worth repeating. Being a brand in and of yourself outside of the brand you work for makes it a lot harder to ignore you. So yes, when you put together those data points and you set up that meeting, it is one thing to be an internal resource that was only existent internally and they can listen to you or not. It's quite another when you are fill in the blank who speaks at these conferences, who is published on these on these blogs, who's a respected voice in the space. And I am asking for this because I'm providing all this value and I am bringing me to the table. And I cannot overstate what a shift it was for me in my career, going from basically having another woman tell my CEO in front of our sales group that I deserved a $50 bonus for bringing in 8 new deals in that day, which was soul crushing, to advocating and growing to where I am now. And I am very proud to say, I will shamelessly plug it, Optmyzr is a very empowering place to work. We have some of the smartest, most brilliant women who work here. And I am in love every day with everything that I see in innovation from a technical standpoint, but also in how much women lift other women up. And if you can find an opportunity if you see someone who's struggling, and you see that they're struggling to kind of own their star power, having that conversation to help them open up, you have no idea the things that you're changing in their life and how it will help you. So I know we're coming up on time, so I'd love everyone to sign off with kind of one piece that you'd love to share, whether it's with your younger self, whether it's with the folks out there, however you want to take it, just one last little actionable end to the conversation. And Andrea, we'll start with you.
Oh, why do you ask me the toughest questions first, Navah?
Because I love you. I know what you're
this is very difficult. If you are passionate about what you are doing, everything will come to you, because people will see that moves you, that you are invested, and it's going to be easier for you to have those tough conversations, and spread the love. Talk to people, find your community. You are not alone, and there's a lot of wonderful people out there, like these beautiful, smart, talented women that will be open to have a conversation with you if you're struggling.
And Sarah, do you want to go next?
Yeah, so I would say the biggest thing, and I might have even said this on Twitter at one point, but like, it's the whole "you can sit with us." Like, there's a space for everyone in this community. Even if you're saying what you think is the same thing that you've heard elsewhere, just the fact that you are saying it makes it yours. And, I oftentimes will listen to the same information over and over again, but it's how somebody else said it that makes me listen to it differently. So there's room for everyone. Don't feel like you're not deserving to be at the table.
Motoko?
Yeah, I would say that don't try to be perfect. You don't have to be perfect. You can ask for help if you need to. Don't be afraid to ask for help, and look for support, and support others if you can. I think that would be create. And then I think this industry is really open to that, and then the networking wise, and then people, even though this industry is becoming such a big place to be, still, there is a close knit of the people, and then close networking opportunities everywhere. So, be part of the group, don't be afraid to ask for help, and support the others again. I think those are the things that I tell myself too still, and would like to encourage others too.
So I'm going to just sign off with, it's actually something I did earlier in the call, of don't apologize for your existence and don't assume that things are a bother. If we can say thank you for taking the time instead of sorry I took your time, or thank you for reviewing this instead of sorry to bother, it is the hugest mind shift that you can make, and it will help you own your power stance. It'll help you own your perspective and your space in the room, which is incredibly important. Now, we are going to be announcing the results of our Shiro campaign. So very excited to get to that. But before we do, Motoko, Andrea, Sarah, thank you guys so much for being here. You three are some of the most incredible minds, women or otherwise, in marketing. And I am so blessed and honored that you are willing to have this conversation with me here at PPC Town Hall, and Optmyzr as well.
Thank you.
It was our honor to be here with you, because you are also a powerhouse, and we appreciate you more than you can imagine.
Deeply. Thank you.
Hey, everybody. I am delighted to share with you the results of our Shiro campaign. Optmyzr has always made a big effort in not just supporting women from a feel-good marketing push, but also employing some of the brightest minds in marketing, in product and engineering. And we could not be more thrilled to announce the results of our Shiro campaign. Now, a few mechanics. With the exception of our winner, who is going to receive some fantastic prizes, mentorship, a GA4 workshop masterclass, and lots of accolades from us. Everyone else, these are all equal women of many different forms of star power. We do not just have PPCs here. We have folks with coding chops. We have folks on the SEO side. We have folks on the social side. So all of this is to say, thank you so much for leaning into your star power and for supporting those who have made an impact in your life. Without any further ado, let's get to our sheroes. So Pavirtha Sekar, Senior Community Engagement Specialist at KissFlow, amazing work, and she is always bringing it for her team. Charo Gupta, Head of Brand and Content Marketing at Hiver. She actually mentored one of our current Optmyzr folks, and we could not be more delighted to have her as part of the group. M. Glover, the amazing tour de force and founder and head of social for Victress. Thank you so much for all you do in empowering brands, but more importantly, by doing good. Ashley Makaran, Senior Director at Reprise Digital. Could not say enough good things about you. Oh my goodness, amazing work. Sarah Carling, VP of Growth at Bui Health. I am in love with this woman. Her perspective is fantastic, and she truly is a growth marketer, going from tech, and she still has those tech chops, all the way to strategy. Natalie Ramirez, SEO product manager at the NBA. So she definitely knows what it means to empower through healthy competition, but then also, again, doing amazing, brilliant work. Stephanie Wallace, VP of Marketing at Nibu Agency, amazing feats of strength, feats of brilliance. She is just fantastic. To our right, she's the founder and director of Digital Seamstress Limited. I am personally very happy to see her on this list as a fellow member of the Paid Search Association. She is just fantastic, and I love her to pieces, and you could not be in better hands when you go to work with her. Veronica Ruiz Morcello, Senior Director of Marketing Specialist at Zest Digital. Amazing speaker, amazing marketer, and all-around tour de force. Now, before I announce our winner, I need to preface this by saying marketing often enables sales, and some of the best marketers are those that really enable not just the prospects to really understand how to communicate to each of our different folks. So I could not be more delighted to announce the winner of the very first Optmyzr Shiro campaign is Crystal Tyang, Director of Presale Solutions at Uberall. What was said about Crystal, there was a number of amazing things celebrating her, but that she always has the latest research and she's always on top of things. She is hardworking and resourceful. She is beaming with positivity, and she just always brings those SEO best practices and white glove level of service. So Crystal, congratulations. We will be in touch to connect you with all of the resources, and thank you to everyone who submitted an entry. If you would like to connect with any of the lovely ladies that I have just highlighted, we are going to be tagging them with all of their socials, and we'll be amplifying them. So absolutely get in touch. This might be a good new mentor for you. This might be a good person to do business with and to get someone who's really amazing to power your marketing. And again, a big thank you from Optmyzr for always doing well by doing good and chasing the horizons of what's possible in profit and victory. And